The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with activity. It was a historic day. The galaxy's most powerful species had gathered to plan their strategy for the biggest war in centuries. The walls of the chamber shimmered with holograms of star maps, displaying enemy positions and potential battle zones. Dozens of alien leaders, generals, and strategists stood around, their faces tense and serious. Among them was Lyrak, a young alien cadet from the Varnak species. He had bright green skin and sharp black eyes, full of curiosity. This was his first time witnessing the Grand Council, and he couldn't contain his excitement. He scanned the room, amazed by the diversity of species present. Tall, scaled Yorgaks stood beside small, furry Rilmeks. The bird-like Corlans whispered strategies to the insectoid Jorans. But as Lyrak observed, he noticed something odd. "Where are the humans?" Lyrak whispered to his mentor, General Traz, who stood beside him. The general, a battle-hardened warrior with a scar running across his face, frowned at the question. "They are not part of this council anymore," he replied, his voice low and cautious. "But why?" Lyrak asked, confused. Humans were legendary warriors in the galaxy. Every history book spoke of their bravery and ability to adapt. They had once led armies to victory in impossible battles. Shouldn't they be here? They're some of the best fighters. General Traz looked around the room nervously, as if afraid someone might overhear. He leaned closer to Lyrak and whispered, "Humans were banned from galactic wars long ago. Their presence is not welcome here anymore." Lyrak's curiosity deepened. Banned? But why? What did they do? Before Traz could answer, a booming voice interrupted. "Attention, council members." The speaker was the elder of the Zoran species, a towering figure with glowing blue eyes. "We must focus on the enemy. The survival of our galaxy depends on unity." The room fell silent as the elder continued speaking about strategies and alliances. But Lyrak couldn't focus. His mind was stuck on the mystery of the humans. Why would the galaxy ban one of its greatest warrior species? It didn't make sense. Later, during a break, Lyrak tried to gather more information. He approached a group of older generals who were talking quietly in a corner. "Excuse me," he said politely. "I couldn't help but wonder, why aren't humans part of the council anymore?" The generals exchanged uneasy glances. One of them, a gray-scaled Yorgak, finally spoke. "Boy, there are questions you should never ask. This is one of them." "But why not?" Lyrak insisted. "Surely I have the right to know. How can we win this war without the best warriors in the galaxy?" The Yorgak leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Humans aren't just warriors. They're something else. Something the galaxy decided it couldn't handle." "What do you mean?" Lyrak asked, his heart pounding. "Enough." The Yorgak snapped, standing upright. "You're too young to understand. Let this matter go, cadet, for your own good." Disappointed but not deterred, Lyrak walked away. He couldn't shake the feeling that the older aliens were hiding something big. The way they spoke about humans wasn't just about fear. It was as if they were ashamed. That night, as the council members rested in their quarters, Lyrak sat alone in the observation deck of the space station. Through the massive glass window, he gazed at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans still existed, isolated on their own planet, Earth. What had they done to make the entire galaxy turn against them? As he sat lost in thought, General Traz approached. "You're still thinking about the humans, aren't you?" Lyrak nodded. "I can't help it. The way everyone talks about them, it's like they're afraid of even mentioning their name." Traz sighed and sat down beside him. "I was a young soldier when the ban happened. Back then, humans were the pride of the galaxy. No one fought harder, smarter, or with more determination than them." But he hesitated, as if unsure whether to continue. "But what?" Lyrak pressed, leaning forward. Traz looked him in the eye. "Sometimes the thing that makes someone great is also the thing that makes them dangerous. Humans were unpredictable. They pushed boundaries no one else dared to. They didn't just fight wars. They ended them, no matter the cost. Lurek shivered at the ominous tone in Traz's voice. What do you mean by no matter the cost? Before Traz could answer, an announcement echoed through the station. All council members, return to the chamber. The next session is about to begin. Traz stood up. Some mysteries are better left alone, cadet. Focus on the task at hand. But as Lurek followed his mentor back to the council chamber, he silently vowed to uncover the truth. He had to know why humanity, a species once celebrated as heroes, was now treated like a dangerous secret. The Galactic Council resumed its session, but Lurek's mind remained elsewhere. The mystery of the humans gnawed at him. He couldn't understand why the galaxy had turned its back on such a powerful ally. His mentor's cryptic words replayed in his head. Sometimes, the thing that makes someone great is also the thing that makes them dangerous. As the council debated strategies, Lurek slipped away unnoticed. He wandered through the massive halls of the space station, hoping to find someone who could shed light on the mystery. His steps brought him to the Veterans Wing, a section reserved for retired warriors who had once fought in historic battles. There, he found Zorlin, a grizzled old veteran from the Corlon species. Zorlin had feathers as white as snow and eyes that seemed to hold centuries of wisdom. He sat alone, staring at a hologram of a battlefield. "Excuse me, sir," Lurek said cautiously. "May I ask you something?" Zorlin glanced at him, his gaze sharp despite his age. "What does a young cadet like you want with an old bird like me?" "I've been hearing whispers about humans," Lurek said. "You fought with them, didn't you? What were they like?" Zorlin's feathers ruffled, and his beak clicked in agitation. "Humans? Why are you asking about them?" "I want to understand why they were banned," Lurek said. "Everyone talks about them like they're some kind of threat, but no one will tell me why." Zorlin let out a low whistle, a sound of both amusement and pity. "You don't know what you're digging into, boy. Humans, they weren't like any other species. They had something in them, something we couldn't match." "What do you mean?" Lurek asked, leaning forward. Zorlin stared into the hologram, his voice dropping to a whisper. When a human fought, it wasn't just for survival or victory. They fought like their very existence depended on it. They didn't fear death. They didn't give up. And when they discovered their enemy's weaknesses, they exploited them without hesitation. It was terrifying. "But isn't that what makes a good warrior?" Lurek argued. Zorlin shook his head. "It goes beyond that. Humans didn't just fight wars. They ended them in ways no one could have imagined. They found solutions that crossed every line of morality. And the worst part, they always came out victorious, no matter the cost." Lurek frowned. "What kind of solutions are you talking about?" Zorlin opened his beak to answer but quickly shut it, his feathers bristling. "I said too much already. Leave it alone, cadet. The galaxy is safer without humans in its wars." Before Lurek could press further, Zorlin stood up and walked away, his posture stiff and uneasy. Determined to get answers, Lurek approached another veteran, a massive Yorgak with scars covering his gray skin. The Yorgak glared at him with suspicion. "You're asking about humans." The Yorgak growled. "You must have a death wish." "I just want to know the truth," Lurek said. The Yorgak sneered. "The truth. Humans are monsters hiding in plain sight. They're too clever, too adaptable. They think in ways no other species can. If you fought alongside them, you'd understand. They didn't just win battles, they destroyed their enemies completely. No mercy, no limits." Lurek swallowed hard. "Is that why they were banned?" The Yorgak leaned closer, his deep voice rumbling like thunder. "The council didn't ban humans to punish them. They banned them because they were afraid. Afraid of what humans would do if they were pushed too far. Afraid of the consequences of unleashing them again." Lurek felt a chill run down his spine. "What consequences?" The Yorgak didn't answer. Instead, He turned and walked away, leaving Lyrak alone with his thoughts. That night, as Lyrak lay in his quarters, the pieces of the puzzle began to come together. Humans weren't just banned because they were dangerous. They were banned because the galaxy feared what they were capable of. But what exactly had they done to earn such fear? Lyrak stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. The more he learned, the more questions he had. He couldn't stop now. He had to find the truth, no matter where it led him. Lyrak couldn't shake the unease that had settled in his chest. The warnings from the veterans only deepened his curiosity. What had humans done that terrified the galaxy so much? Why were they feared more than any other species? The next day, Lyrak decided to dig deeper. He knew the galactic archives held records of past conflicts, including the wars where humans had fought. Accessing those files, however, was restricted to council members and high-ranking officials. As a cadet, he was far from qualified. But Lyrak wasn't about to give up. If the answers he sought were hidden behind locked doors, then he'd find another way in. Under the dim glow of his cabin's console, he reached out to an old friend, Kara, a brilliant tech specialist who had a knack for breaking rules as easily as she broke codes. "You're calling me after 2 years of silence because you want to hack into the galactic archives," Kara said, her voice crackling through the comms. "Pretty much," Lyrak admitted sheepishly. She sighed dramatically. "You owe me big for this. What are you even looking for?" "Files on humans," he said. There was a long pause. "Humans? Lyrak, are you insane? Do you have any idea how many red flags that'll raise?" "That's why I need you," he said. "You're the best, Kara. No one will even know you were there." She groaned. "Fine. But if I get caught, you better have a good escape plan for me." It didn't take long for Kara to bypass the archive's security system. As Lyrak watched her work, he couldn't help but marvel at her skill. Within minutes, the restricted files were open to them. "Here it is," Kara said, sending the files to his console. "Everything the Council has on humans." Lyrak's heart raced as he opened the first file. The holographic display lit up with reports, battle logs, and visual recordings from the last war humans had fought in. The first log was from an Alliance officer who had fought alongside humans during a critical battle. His voice was shaky as he recounted the events. "We were outnumbered, our fleets scattered. It should have been a massacre, but then the humans arrived. Their ships were faster, their tactics unpredictable. They didn't just fight. They adapted, learning the enemy's strategies in real time. Within hours, the tide of the battle shifted. The enemy didn't stand a chance." The recording shifted to a visual feed of the battle. Lyrak watched as human ships darted through the chaos like predators, striking with precision and efficiency. It was breathtaking and terrifying. The next log, however, painted a darker picture. This one came from an alien commander who had been captured by humans. "They don't just fight wars," the commander said, his voice filled with bitterness. "They destroy civilizations. They exploit weaknesses, targeting not just soldiers, but entire populations. They call it strategy, but it's more like annihilation." Lyrak leaned back, his mind spinning. The reports were clear. Humans were unmatched in both brilliance and brutality. But what stood out most was their unpredictability. No one could anticipate their next move, and that made them unstoppable. Kara's voice broke through his thoughts. "Lyrak, I've been looking through the files, and there's something you need to see. It's buried deep in the records, an incident the Council has tried to erase." She sent him another file, labeled Operation Final Dawn. Lyrak hesitated for a moment before opening it. The report detailed a classified mission led by humans during the final days of the war. The operation was brutal. Human forces had infiltrated an enemy planet, not to conquer it, but to render it uninhabitable. They had used advanced technology to disrupt the planet's atmosphere, causing catastrophic environmental collapse. Billions had perished, and the planet was left barren. The Galactic Council had been horrified. The humans had justified their actions as necessary to end the war, but the cost had been too high. It was after this operation that the Council had decided to ban humans from intergalactic warfare. Lyrak stared at the screen, a mix of awe and horror coursing through him. Humans had ended the war, but at an unimaginable price. Was it fear of their power or guilt over what they had allowed that drove the Council's decision? Before he could process what he had learned, an alert flashed on his console. Unauthorized access to the archives had been detected. Lyrak, you need to get out of there, Kara said urgently. They're onto us. Lyrak closed the files and shut down the console. He knew the Council wouldn't take kindly to his actions, but he couldn't stop now. The truth about humanity was more complicated and more dangerous than he had ever imagined. Lyrak paced back and forth in his cabin, his thoughts racing after what he had discovered. The files he and Kara had uncovered painted a grim picture of humanity, a species capable of unimaginable brilliance and unspeakable destruction. But the question that haunted him was, why had the Galactic Council gone to such lengths to hide this? Before Lyrak could dwell further, his communicator beeped. It was Kara. They're onto us, Lyrak, she said, her voice trembling. The Council's security is no joke. I've wiped my traces, but they're tracking you now. You need to lay low. Lyrak frowned. What about the files? Did you find anything else before they locked us out? Kara hesitated. There's more, but you won't like it. I'm sending it to you now. Be careful. Moments later, another file appeared on his console. Lyrak opened it, his heart pounding. This file wasn't a war report or a battle log. It was a transcript from a secret council meeting, held shortly after Operation Final Dawn. The recording began with a council member's voice, calm but tense. The humans have crossed a line, the voice said. Their actions ended the war, yes, but at what cost? Entire civilizations annihilated, planets rendered uninhabitable. Their methods are too extreme, their judgment too dangerous. Another voice chimed in, filled with fear. They don't follow our rules. They see war as a game, and they play to win, no matter the consequences. If we allow them to continue, they'll destroy the very fabric of the galaxy. Then came the voice of the Council's leader, solemn and resolute. We have no choice. Humanity must be banned from intergalactic warfare. Their technology, their strategies, their very existence as combatants is a threat. From this day forward, they are to be excluded from all alliances, and their military capabilities will be closely monitored. The recording ended, leaving Lyrak stunned. The Council hadn't banned humanity because of their power alone. They had banned them out of fear. Fear that humans, once unleashed, could not be controlled. Suddenly, a loud knock on his cabin door jolted Lyrak back to reality. His heart sank. The Council's enforcers had found him. Cadet Lyrak, open the door, a voice commanded. Thinking fast, Lyrak grabbed a data chip and transferred the files onto it. He tucked it into a hidden compartment in his uniform before opening the door. Two enforcers barged in, their expressions stern. You've been accessing restricted files, one of them said. You're coming with us. Lyrak didn't resist as they escorted him through the ship's corridors. He knew any attempt to fight back would only make things worse, but he also knew he couldn't let the truth die with him. As they reached the detention area, Lyrak's mind raced. He had to find a way to escape, to share what he had learned. Humanity's story was more than just a tale of destruction. It was a warning, a lesson the galaxy needed to understand. The enforcers locked him in a cell, but Lyrak noticed something odd. Across the room, another figure sat in the shadows, watching him intently. Who are you? Lyrak asked, his voice low. The figure leaned forward, revealing an older alien with piercing eyes. I've been waiting for someone like you, the stranger said. Someone willing to uncover the truth. Lyrak frowned. You know about the humans. The alien nodded. More than you can imagine. The Council has been lying to us for centuries. If you want answers, you'll need my help. Lyrak hesitated. Could he trust this stranger? He didn't have much of a choice. If the council was willing to arrest him for accessing the truth, what else were they hiding? "I'm listening," Lurek said. The alien smiled faintly. "Good. The truth about humanity is only the beginning. There's much more the council doesn't want you to know. But first, we need to get out of here." The detention cell was cold and dimly lit, but Lurek barely noticed. His mind raced with questions about the mysterious alien who now sat across from him. Who was he? And why was he so willing to help? "You didn't answer my question," Lurek said, his voice cautious. "Why do you care about the truth?" The older alien smirked. "Because the truth is dangerous, and I've spent my life searching for it. The council has been hiding things, not just about humans, but about the entire galactic order." Lurek frowned. "What do you mean?" Before the alien could respond, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the corridor. The enforcers were returning, and this time, they weren't alone. A high-ranking officer, dressed in the council's signature robes, walked in. "Cadet Lurek," the officer said sternly. "You've committed a grave offense by accessing classified information. What do you have to say for yourself?" Lurek took a deep breath, his heart pounding. The galaxy deserves to know the truth about humanity. Hiding it only makes things worse. The officer's eyes narrowed. "The truth. The truth is that humans are a threat to everything we've built. They're unpredictable, ruthless, and uncontrollable. You've jeopardized your future by meddling in matters far beyond your station." Before Lurek could respond, the older alien spoke up, his tone calm but defiant. "And what about the council's role in all of this? You fear humanity because they challenge your authority, not because they're dangerous." The officer shot him a glare. "You've been silent for years, Orak. Don't start now." Lurek's eyes widened. Orak. The name was familiar. He was a former council advisor who had disappeared decades ago after clashing with the council's policies. "You're Orak?" Lurek asked, stunned. Orak nodded. "And I've been waiting for someone like you, someone bold enough to question the lies we've been fed." The officer motioned to the enforcers. "Enough. Take them both to central detainment. We'll decide their fate later." As the enforcers approached, Orak suddenly moved with surprising agility for his age. With a swift motion, he disarmed one of the guards and activated the stun baton he had taken. In the chaos, Lurek seized the opportunity to tackle the other enforcer. "Come on, cadet," Orak shouted, heading toward the open corridor. Lurek followed, his adrenaline surging. Alarms blared as they sprinted through the ship, dodging patrols and security drones. Orak seemed to know the layout of the vessel, leading them through maintenance shafts and hidden passages. After what felt like an eternity, they reached an escape pod bay. Orak quickly activated one of the pods and motioned for Lurek to enter. "Where are we going?" Lurek asked, still catching his breath. "To a place where the council's influence doesn't reach," Orak replied. "A place where we can uncover the full truth." As the escape pod launched into the void of space, Lurek couldn't help but feel a mix of relief and apprehension. He had escaped the council, but his journey was far from over. Inside the pod, Orak finally began to explain. The humans weren't banned because they were too dangerous to the galaxy. They were banned because they refused to bow to the council's control. They questioned the rules, challenged authority, and exposed the council's hypocrisy. Lurek listened intently, his curiosity growing with every word. "But why hide all of this?" he asked. Orak's expression turned grim. "Because the council thrives on order and compliance. Humanity represents chaos and independence. If the truth about them were revealed, it could inspire others to question the council's rule. And that's something they can't allow." As Orak spoke, the pod's navigation system beeped, signaling their approach to a small, uncharted moon. "This is where we'll find the next piece of the puzzle," Orak said, "and where you'll begin to understand just how deep this conspiracy goes." The escape pod landed softly on the surface of the uncharted moon, its engines humming as it powered down. Lurek stepped out, his eyes scanning the barren, rocky landscape. It was a place devoid of life, or so it seemed at first glance. Orak motioned for him to follow, his movements deliberate and confident. "This way," he said. They trekked through the rugged terrain in silence until they reached a narrow canyon. Orak pressed a concealed panel on the canyon wall, and a hidden doorway slid open with a faint hiss. "What is this place?" Lirak asked, his voice filled with awe. "A sanctuary for truth seekers," Orak replied. "Those who dare to question the Council's narrative find refuge here. And here, we'll uncover what humanity left behind." Inside, the sanctuary was a marvel of ancient and advanced technology. Alien species from across the galaxy worked together, analyzing artifacts, decoding ancient scripts, and discussing forbidden knowledge. A tall, reptilian alien approached them. "Orak, it's been a long time," the alien said, his voice deep and resonant. "I see you've brought someone new." "This is Lirak," Orak introduced. "He's uncovered part of the truth, and I believe he's ready to learn the rest." The reptilian alien, who introduced himself as Grez, nodded. "Follow me." Grez led them to a large chamber filled with holographic displays and ancient relics. At the center of the room was a massive sphere, glowing faintly with a blue light. "This is the beacon," Grez explained. "It's one of the last remnants of humanity's influence in the galaxy. Before their banishment, they left behind this message. It contains their side of the story, the truth the Council doesn't want anyone to hear." Lirak approached the beacon, his heart racing. "Can we access it?" Grez shook his head. "Not yet. The beacon is locked, and only someone with a connection to humanity can unlock it. That's why we've been waiting, for someone like you." Lirak frowned. "I'm not human. How could I possibly have a connection to them?" Orak stepped forward, placing a hand on Lirak's shoulder. "You may not be human, but your actions, your courage to seek the truth, mirror the very qualities that made humanity so unique. The beacon responds to those who embody their spirit." Lirak hesitated, then placed his hand on the glowing sphere. The room fell silent as the beacon's light intensified. A soft hum filled the air, and then suddenly, the room was bathed in a cascade of images and sounds. The beacon revealed humanity's side of the story. It showed how they had fought in the galactic wars not out of ambition, but to protect weaker species who had been abandoned by the Council. It showed how they had sacrificed their own worlds to stop a greater evil, how their ingenuity and determination had turned the tide of battle time and time again. But it also showed the Council's betrayal, how humanity had been cast aside and demonized once they became too powerful to control. The Council had spread lies, framing humans as reckless and dangerous, to justify their banishment. Lirak watched in stunned silence, his mind reeling from the revelations. "So they weren't the monsters the Council made them out to be," he said, his voice trembling. "No," Orak replied. "They were heroes. Flawed, yes, but heroes nonetheless. And the Council feared them because they showed the galaxy what true freedom and defiance looked like." Grez stepped forward. "Now that you've seen the truth, what will you do with it?" Lirak looked at the beacon, then at Orak and Grez. "The galaxy deserves to know. The lies end here." Before anyone could respond, the sanctuary's alarms blared. A voice crackled over the intercom. "Council forces incoming. They've found us." Lirak's heart sank. The Council would stop at nothing to keep the truth buried. Orak grabbed his arm. "We have to protect the beacon. If they destroy it, the truth will be lost forever." The sanctuary trembled as the first blasts from the Council's ships struck the moon's surface. Dust and debris rained down from the ceiling, and the sound of distant explosions echoed through the chambers. Lirak felt his pulse quicken as the weight of their situation sunk in. "We have to move," Orak shouted, grabbing a small data drive from a nearby console. "The beacon's data must be preserved. If they destroy it, everything we've uncovered will be lost." Grez barked orders to the sanctuary's inhabitants. "Defensive positions. Protect the beacon at all costs. As the group scrambled, Lurak turned to Orak. What can I do? Orak handed him the data drive. Take this. It contains everything the beacon revealed. You must escape and spread the truth. The Council will stop at nothing to silence us. But what about you? Lurak asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. Orak gave him a grim smile. My fight is here. The galaxy needs someone like you to carry the torch forward. Before Lurak could protest, a massive explosion shook the chamber, and Council enforcers poured through the entrance, their weapons raised. The sanctuary's defenders fought back fiercely, using makeshift barricades and advanced technology to hold the line. Go, Lurak! Orak shouted as he joined the battle, his movements swift and precise despite his age. Clutching the data drive tightly, Lurak sprinted toward a hidden exit Grez had shown him earlier. The passage led to a concealed hangar, where a small, unregistered ship waited. As he ran, memories of the beacon's revelations played in his mind. The humans had been more than warriors. They had been protectors, innovators, and visionaries. Their banishment wasn't just an injustice. It was a crime against the entire galaxy. Reaching the hangar, Lurak boarded the ship and quickly activated its systems. The vessel hummed to life, and he guided it out of the moon's atmosphere. From the cockpit, he could see the sanctuary under siege, Council ships bombarding the surface relentlessly. Tears stung his eyes as he realized he might never see Orak or the others again, but their sacrifice wouldn't be in vain. As he plotted a course for the nearest neutral zone, Lurak activated the ship's communication array. He began transmitting the data from the beacon to as many channels as he could, ensuring that the truth would spread far and wide. People of the galaxy, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. This is the story of humanity, a story the Council doesn't want you to know. It's time for the truth to come to light. The transmission included the beacon's images and recordings, showing humanity's bravery and the Council's betrayal. Lurak could only hope that it would reach enough people to make a difference. As the ship sped away from the moon, Council vessels detected his escape and gave chase. Alarms blared as enemy ships closed in on him, their weapons locking onto his vessel. Just as Lurak thought it was the end, a fleet of unregistered ships appeared out of hyperspace. They were small, ragtag vessels, but they opened fire on the Council ships without hesitation. A voice crackled over Lurak's comm system. We received your message, Lurak. We're with you. The Council's reign of lies ends today. Relief washed over him as the unregistered fleet engaged the Council forces, giving him time to escape. The galaxy was beginning to stir, and the truth was finally out. As Lurak's ship vanished into hyperspace, he clenched the data drive tightly in his hand. The fight wasn't over, but humanity's story would no longer be silenced.